What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope y'all have had a great start to your week, a great Monday. We're going to break down what's going on kind of currently and over the next couple days, but really going to focus on the tropics in this video and really break down what's going on because it's very active out there. It's just not actively really affecting the lower 48, but there's some things we need to watch for a little bit down the road. We have what is Peter right here, Tropical Storm Rose, which is going to continue to drift more north and just dissipate. And Peter's pretty much going to do the same, but we still have to watch for Bermuda with Peter and see if it affects them at all. But really, we're not going to focus much on these two storms because ultimately they're not going to do a whole lot. What we are going to talk a lot on is what is going to be Tropical Storm Sam over the next couple days, and eventually likely become an all-out hurricane, and really has the potential, a lot more potential than what Peter had, to really develop, and something we need to watch long-term for any kind of effects for any of the Caribbean islands and the lower 48 and the southeast. So we're going to really talk about that. We're also going to briefly mention our strong cold front that is on the way. It's going to deliver pretty much a pattern-changing air mass into the entire eastern U.S. I'm really looking forward to it. We've had two decent cold fronts already in September here, even deep down here in the southeast where I'm located. So this one's going to be the strongest one yet. So we're going to talk a little bit about that also. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. If you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Like the video if you like it. It's kind of slow right now. Not a whole lot crazy going on, but that's kind of good. A lot of people have been mentioning the volcano and the volcano La Palma. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that. There's a lot of I'll make this quick. There's a lot of Facebook pages out there, whether it's on maybe some YouTubes out there. I haven't really seen any YouTubes, honestly, but there's a lot of people doing fear-mongering with this volcano because, and it all started back in 2004 around Christmas, or was it 2005? I'm not sure. Somebody correct me in the comments. I think it was 2004 when they had the tsunami and in Indonesia affected them guys over there. Then there was a lot of conspiracies that came up that potentially La Palma could eventually create a tsunami. Well, they've kind of debunked that, and I don't know all the facts behind that, but I've looked a little bit into it. Long story short, the East Coast is not a threat of tsunami. Now, it's not completely out the rim of the possibility. No, you can never say that really about anything, right? But right now, that is not the case. So you guys do not believe all them crazy posts out there. They just want some clicks, shares, and some of them make money off of it. So be careful what you click on. So let's get going. Let's talk about the weather right now. So we'll look at the NAM, and we'll look over the next couple days. And as we're going here, we're getting into overnight tonight. You notice all the rains here, and you notice this line of storms coming through right here. That is actually the cold front, bringing in a line of showers and storms. But in the meantime, as we're getting going tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up. It's going to be very damp, very wet across the Carolinas, parts in Georgia and North Carolina, really in South Carolina. Got to watch out for flooding overnight, as I mentioned in my video this morning, for areas like Charleston and the coastal areas of the Carolinas. The rain, the flooding threat will begin to shift north as the cold front is moving through at the same time. It's going to be a severe weather threat across the Ohio Valley, and I think the main threat there will probably be strong winds and heavy rain as a linear threat, which basically symbolizes a line of storms will move through that area. You got to watch out for some damaging winds with this approaching cold front. At the same time, you really have a big-time onshore flow, if you will, whipping through, bringing in as much tropical moisture as it possibly can across the eastern U.S. before ultimately this front says, get on out of here with all that, and brings that dry air in. But very wet conditions tomorrow into Wednesday. Wednesday it shifts more into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. This cold front is kind of bowing out, meaning it's kind of bending this way and kind of going like this. That means the drier air is actually going to get to the southeast. Cooler, drier is going to get into the southeast before it gets into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. So it's going to be interesting, and that's normally how the strong cold fronts work. But along the cold front, you're also going to have a line of storms too. Depending on what part of the day it is, Wednesday, depends on how strong these storms are going to be, depending on where you're at. So, for instance, in the Carolinas, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, you could have a little bit of a line of storms. And I tell you what, on the NAM, it's really trending this thing to move a lot quicker, which means you would have the boundary of the cold front moving through right during the day, which means you could potentially have some severe weather across the southeast and mid-Atlantic during the day Wednesday. So we'll watch out for that. And you can tell where this cold front is if you look at the boundary right here and where the drier air is going through. And it's a pretty tight boundary. This is all the dry air. This is 40s, 50s, and dew points as you're getting into Wednesday morning. Dry air moving in as early as Wednesday morning into Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, But look, it's already getting into areas like Georgia and South Carolina as early as Wednesday afternoon. So this is trending a little bit quicker. So we might see the impacts of, I don't know, from Virginia to the Carolinas or Georgia, as early as Wednesday late evening. You might see a gush of wind, and here comes the front, and dry air filters in behind it. I'm actually hoping it does that, because I love when these daily frontal passages come through. You can actually experience it, as opposed to this happening overnight. You can't really experience it. But there is a big-time flooding threat beforehand. As you can tell, a slight risk along the coastal areas into tomorrow, and this shifts a little bit more north to the mid-Atlantic going forward into Wednesday. But if we talk about the tropics, we'll switch here. You got Rose, which is a 40-mile-per-hour storm, Peter, which is a 45-mile-per-hour storm, and you have this area right here that is going to be Sam, SAM, the next named storm, an 80% chance to develop here in the next 5 days. This could be a big one. Now, I'm not saying big one as it's going to affect somebody, but it's going to, I think, be a big storm. When we look at the latest European, it's the latest operational run. We're getting into Thursday morning. You have Sam at this point developing. You're getting into the weekend. This is a quickly intensifying storm. At this point, you have an all-out hurricane as we're getting into Sunday morning. And it's approaching, getting very close to the Lesser Antilles, according to the European run, as a strong hurricane, pushing Category 2, Category 3 hurricane. Continues to strengthen, and it's a major hurricane at this point, just north of Puerto Rico, and so the European definitely has it much closer. You look at the GFS; it's much different here. It develops Sam just like the European, develops it very quickly just like the European, and it's an all-out hurricane. But check it out; it turns north very quick, as early next week. And it heads north. It finds a weakness in the pattern here, and basically, that's about it. It heads north, and it doesn't look like it's going to affect anybody. So the European and the GFS is much different, and I'll tell you why. The European has a little bit of ridging in place. Therefore, it keeps the system a little further south. There's not much ridging, but it's enough. As it's getting closer, you get 10 days out, you see a big trough over the eastern U.S. So what that makes you think is, if you take this for face value, even if the European's getting this this kind of scary look right here, with it being this south in latitude and kind of heading what looks like towards the southeast, big trough digs, it might kick it back out. But in the meantime, the pattern supports kind of not really much of a weakness here, because you have a little bit of ridging, enough to keep this at bay in south latitude, and maybe presents a more threatening scenario. The GFS does not have that. It shows a storm pop up here, which would be Sam. Going forward, there's a big-time weakness right here. It finds that weakness, which you see the more blue anomalies. That is more of a weakness. And it heads north, and that's all she wrote. And it might get trapped under some ridging at high pressure, but this time it's so far north, it's not going to affect anybody. So if you look at any favorable conditions, the sea surface temperatures, that's not even really what the topic. They are definitely warm enough for a major hurricane. We don't have to worry about that as far as any kind of, well, I'm saying we don't have to worry about that like it's good that a hurricane could potentially form, but the tropical system does not have to worry about that at all. Now you look at the 200 millibar streamlines here. I showed this a lot during Ida. You're getting into this weekend. This storm has a nice outflow. Upper wind patterns are very favorable at this point. It's ventilating, like we talk about, a low shear environment, but it probably would encounter some shear as it moves a little bit further. It might have an interaction with a tut. Will there be a tut in place? We don't know. You got a lot to figure out with this system. It's kind of like Peter, but with this storm, it really looks like it's going to develop into something, as opposed to Peter. We really thought it was going to develop into at least a hurricane, and it never even made it to a hurricane. You look at the GEFS ensembles, and we'll go out as far as this will let us, and that's a strong signal for a strong storm, basically midway through the main development region. Now, what's rare about this is, I haven't mentioned this, is at this time of the year, we're getting into late September, we're about to enter October. At this time of the year, really even this time of the year, you don't really have a lot of tropical systems that make that long track anymore. You're starting to get a little bit cooler, and especially when you get into October, you don't have any long-lasting tropical systems. So I don't know what that was, but we'll keep it rolling here. So moving forward here, That's a strong signal for a tropical system, but as you can tell, a lot of members keep it moving north, and then it shows another storm behind that, so it's kind of weird. But moving forward here, we'll look at the European anomalies here, the European ensembles here, and it picks up on that storm. Don't focus on this. This is Peter. This is Rose right here, moving forward here. So, you see a lot of the reds that symbolizes a strong storm, the storm getting very strong. But there's some members to go this far south route, and there's a lot of members that take the north. So we'll have to continue to watch this. We'll figure it out. Really, there's nothing threatening in the short and medium, maybe even the long term. But Sam has taken that path that makes you kind of double take and definitely keeps you aware of the tropics. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. And hope you all are doing all right. I've forgotten that, make sure y'all put y'all's prayers in the comments. Forgot to mention that in the beginning of my videos, but that is very important. Sometimes I've had a lot going on the last week or so. Nothing bad. It's just been very, very busy. So if I've had a little bit of low energy in the last few of my videos, man, it's just been a lot going on. When school started, it seemed like there's been things, very like small things, just been one thing after the other. Nothing really big, but just small things. My kids are yelling in the background, so I gotta go. So thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed night, and thank y'all.